I want to go to Alex Little, the former assistant U.S. attorney, criminal defense and litigation attorney. Alex, you came away from this and hearing Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony. How much of this has criminal implications for the former president? Again, if true.
Yeah, I think a great deal of it does. The two pieces that are, I think, maybe not new, but certainly she had some hands-on evidence about was the president's knowledge of weapons in the crowd and his statement essentially not to deal, don't worry about that, let him through. It suggests when there's later violence that he had some awareness of that and was willing to sort of be okay with that risk. The steps he took allegedly in the Beast also show a president who was very, very adamant about getting to the Capitol, even when his advisors advised him not to, when he was told it could increase the violence. That's extremely problematic. And then the discussions in the West Wing when he's back in the White House, where she testified about Meadows' conversation about the president really not caring about the fact that there were chants to hang Mike Pence. I mean, that's pretty damning stuff if you put that in front of a criminal jury in a criminal trial. The other piece that hasn't really been touched on was the potential obstruction of justice here. The text messages that this witness received about, President Trump is going to be reading these transcripts, do the right thing. That's pretty classic obstruction of justice. And I do think there's a whole avenue of potential criminal charges there that haven't really been discussed.
You know what I discover with each and every hearing, and again, you have to rely on the people who are making the remarks, is that a lot of people were seeking a lot of pardons. And the newest additions, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows himself. What do you make of that? It's a growing list of virtually every congressman who was for disputing the validity of the election itself and their move to either have a backup slate of electors that could do the president's bidding or just to protest the election itself.
If I'm a prosecutor and I'm building a case that so much is going to be focused on the state of mind of these individuals when they're taking certain actions, did they know what they were doing was illegal? Did they think it might be legitimate? The fact that they're openly discussing the president, giving them pardons, sometimes blanket pardons over a period of time, certainly suggests they knew in their own mind what they were doing was improper. It's going to be incredibly damning evidence if this ever gets to a trial.
So if you're former President Trump, though, Alex, and you're saying, I know they have weapons and they're not going to harm anyone, if you could turn that around and say, you, Secret Service, are worried about my safety. I don't think these people will harm me. Maybe there's a way of interpreting that. Well, I don't think they're going to do much harm, but if you're worried about harming me and the Secret Service agent doesn't want to bring him to the Capitol for fear that will only endanger the president's safety, to say nothing of those who are marching toward the Hill. I mean, is that a possible out for the president?
Well, that's certainly going to be the explanation of folks in Trump world. But realistically, you're the president of the United States. You owe an oath to everyone, including those police officers who are guarding the Capitol, including people on both sides who are representatives inside that Capitol building. And if you are okay with there being a greater risk of harm because folks have guns and weapons and they're marching towards the Capitol, that shows a real betrayal of your oath. And I think, again, it goes directly in line with charges like seditious conspiracy. You can say, hey, I'm not worried about them hurting me, but you need to be worried about them hurting the democratic process and the folks who are in the Capitol building.
Yeah, you have to go beyond how this looks for you, right? I mean, you're the expert on law and potential criminality here. At a minimum, this is the leader of the free world, and he is clearly unhinged.
And that's why that moment in the limousine, if we hear corroboration from the agents, I think it's going to be very interesting whether those agents have talked to the Department of Justice already or not. Has some of their statements been secured outside of this committee process? That's certainly possible. But if you have a president who's been told, don't go to the Capitol, it's only going to inflame things, and he is so desperate to get there that he's physically laying his hands on folks who are meant to protect him, I think that's pretty damning evidence that what was in the president's mind was to get to the Capitol and subvert the will of the voters, at least as we understood it at the time. And that's incredibly problematic for him as you look at a criminal investigation.
All right, Alex Little, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.